dan saya kembalikan kepada Dadi, silakan.
Ya, terima kasih kepada rekan Anggun. Pemirsa, saat ini di layar kaca kita bisa saksikan bahwa telah hadir Ketua DPR Ibu Puan Maharani dan juga Ketua DPD RI Bapak Lanyala Mataliti yang didampingi dengan Bapak Indra Iskandar selaku Sekretaris Jenderal DPR RI, yang dimana DPR RI pada tahun ini menjadi panitia penyelenggara yaitu sidang tahunan MPR RI. Dan kita masih menantikan kehadiran dari Presiden Republik Indonesia dan Wakil Presiden Republik Indonesia untuk hadir di Kompleks Parlemen untuk mengikuti jalannya sidang tahunan MPR RI bersama DPR dan juga DPD. Dan kita bisa menyaksikan tadi dalam layar kaca di dalam gedung Nusantara bahwa banyak sekali sudah ada beberapa anggota DPR RI yang sudah hadir untuk mengikuti jalannya sidang tahunan pada hari ini. Yaitu dalam sidang tahun ini pemirsa, rencananya hanya ada sekitar 300 orang dari sekitar 1000-an kapasitas gedung paripurna, di mana tempat ruang sidang akan dilonggarkan dan bahkan undangan yang datang wajib menyerahkan hasil rapid test untuk petugas, dan pihak yang berdekatan dengan Presiden harus melakukan tes swab terlebih dahulu selaku Sekretaris Jenderal DPR RI, yang dimana DPR RI pada tahun ini menjadi panitia penyelenggara yaitu sidang tahunan MPR RI. Dan kita masih menantikan kehadiran dari Presiden Republik Indonesia dan Wakil Presiden Republik Indonesia untuk hadir di Kompleks Parlemen untuk mengikuti jalannya sidang tahunan MPR RI bersama DPR dan juga DPD. Dan kita bisa menyaksikan tadi dalam layar kaca di dalam gedung Nusantara bahwa banyak sekali sudah ada beberapa anggota DPR RI yang sudah hadir untuk mengikuti jalannya sidang tahunan pada hari ini. Yaitu dalam sidang tahun ini pemirsa, rencananya hanya ada sekitar 300 orang dari sekitar 1000-an kapasitas gedung paripurna, di mana tempat ruang sidang akan dilonggarkan dan bahkan undangan yang datang wajib menyerahkan hasil rapid test untuk petugas, dan pihak yang berdekatan dengan Presiden harus melakukan tes swab terlebih dahulu. Dan adapun yang hadir secara fisik nantinya berjumlah 310 orang. Sementara itu undangan virtual sebanyak 860 orang yang terdiri dari 378 anggota DPR RI dan 89 anggota DPD RI. Sisanya undangan lainnya dan konfirmasi kehadiran tamu undangan virtual dalam rapat tersebut sudah bisa dilakukan sejak tanggal 7 hingga 10 Agustus 2020 kemarin. Dan pada tanggal 10 hingga 13 Agustus dilakukan konfirmasi ID meeting dan password. Dan setelah itu di hari tanggal 14 Agustus 2020 pada hari ini telah akan dilaksanakan pada pukul 8 yaitu sidang tahunan MPR RI dan sidang bersama DPR dan juga DPD RI. Pemirsa, kita masih menantikan kehadiran dari Presiden Republik Indonesia dan Wakil Presiden Republik Indonesia serta pimpinan dan para ketua lembaga negara untuk memasuki Kompleks Parlemen untuk mengikuti sidang tahunan bersama MPR dan juga DPR dan juga DPD. Kita kembali.
Testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. This is the testing session for the YouTube live streaming English interpretation.
Ladies and gentlemen, tes 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 tes. 1 2 3 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 tes tes tes. Oh.
Thank you to Anggun. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm reporting from the assembly room. And for the first agenda is the annual assembly of the People's Consultative Council, also the joint assembly of the House of Representatives, and the opening of the assembly by the chairperson of the People's Consultative Council. We also have the state address from the president and sessions of the legislative bodies opened by the address of the chairperson of the legislative bodies in commemoration of the 75th Independence Day of Indonesia. And what you are seeing this morning are the members of the House who will be attending the annual session. We will have a total of 310 participants in the room. We have 89 members of the Regional Representative Council. You are also seeing the convoy of the President and the Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia. The Vice President is arriving, and we are waiting for him to arrive at the lobby of Nusantara building. We are also waiting for the president to attend the session. Back to you, Anggun. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still waiting for the arrival of the Vice President at the House of Representatives complex, and he is arriving at the Nusantara building lobby. We are expecting the Vice President, Dr. Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin. The Vice President is stepping out of his car, and as we can see, the Vice President is arriving at this moment at the Nusantara lobby. You are seeing on screen the Vice President is walking towards the VIP room. Attending the sessions of the legislative bodies of 2020. We are also still waiting for the arrival of the President, Mr. Insinyur Joko Widodo. And the Vice President is now walking towards the VIP room while waiting for the arrival of the President. And we will shortly commence with the session once the President arrives. Watching on screen the arrival of the members of House of Representatives, People's Consultative Assembly, and the Regional Representative Council in preparation of the 2020 session. So as the organizer of this session, the House has prepared alternative scenario to make sure the smooth implementation of the meeting, and we can see that all measures, including health protocols, are very well coordinated in this year's session. As you can see on your screen as well, I think we are now expecting in any moment the president will be arriving at the House of Representatives complex, and we're also now seeing the session assembly room, and we can see the health protocols in place for this year's session. We also have some members of the House and other legislative bodies who are attending this session in person.
As we can see here on your screen, we can see the entourage of our president. The motorcade of the president is approaching Nusantara building, and from there he will directly approach the VIP room to meet with other leaders of the state institutions. Then they will together take the elevator to go to the plenary hall to begin the annual session and joint session. The annual session of the People Consultative Assembly (MPR) and the joint session between the House of Representatives (DPR) and the House of the Regional Representatives (DPD). As the head of government and as the head of the state, President Joko Widodo will deliver the performance report of the state institution so that the people may understand how the state institutions have performing their duties based on what mandated by the Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see on the screen, President Joko Widodo has left his state vehicle in a traditional costume, and he directly approached the VIP room. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit down. I would like to remind you, during the event, please silent your cell phone or other communication devices. And in order to observe the health protocol, I would like to invite all of you who attend in person to remain on your seat and avoid shaking hands or taking selfies with the President of the Republic of Indonesia and Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia. On your screen, the leaders of the state institutions are taking group picture with the President and Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia.
Ladies and gentlemen, we can see the President is being accompanied by the chairpersons of MPR, DPD, and DPR, and it seems that they are approaching the elevators. And they are now going towards the VIP room. And the chair and speaker of MPR, DPR, and DPD are going to have a short meeting or short discussion prior to the opening of the session. Ladies and gentlemen, we are watching the arrival of the President and Vice President, Mr. Joko Widodo and Mr. Kiai Haji Ma'ruf Amin at the MPR complex this morning, and we are going to follow the joint sessions in commemoration of the 75th Independence Day of the Republic of Indonesia on August 17, 2020. The theme for this year's celebration is Advanced Indonesia. We are also watching on screen entertainment for the members of the House who are waiting for the opening of the annual session of MPR, DPD, and DPR of the Republic of Indonesia. So you can see on screen this morning, and we can see some empty chairs, but this is to observe the health protocols of the government, imposing the physical distancing. People are also discouraged from taking selfies. Masks are mandatory and to maintain distance. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still waiting for the opening of the annual session of MPR and the joint session of DPR and DPD. The room does seem empty. In previous sessions, this room would have been filled by participants and distinguished guests, but this year we are holding this event also virtually, and only certain members of the MPR, DPR, and DPD who are attending this session today in person. The other members are attending this session virtually. With respect to the health protocols implemented by the Secretariat General of DPR RI, disinfection had been carried out by the Jakarta Unit of Health and last August, and it is carried out to make sure that there's no transmission of disease of COVID-19 during this year's session. As you can also watch on screen, some members or some parliamentarians are socializing, and they, as you can see, they're also still observing the health protocols, maintaining safe physical distance. Some of them are taking their seats and waiting for the opening of this year's session. So in this year's session, the agenda will consist of the annual session of MPR and then a joint session of DPR and DPD. We'll also follow the address, the opening address of the annual session of MPR and DPR. We'll also follow reports of the performance of the legislative bodies. There will also be a joint session of DPR and DPD. And the address will be delivered by Speaker of DPR RI, Ibu Puan Maharani. There'll also be a speech to commemorate Indonesia's 75th Independence Day. Certainly, we look forward to this session to start. As of now, the invitees and distinguished guests are arriving, and they are approaching the VIP room to coordinate before we commence with the annual session. April 2019 is a historical moment for Indonesia. That is the first time where the simultaneous elections, concurrent elections, were held to elect the president, vice president, and members of parliament and central and subnational level. The result of elections were established on May 21st, 2019. 575 elect parliamentarians of 2019-2024 were inaugurated on October 1st, 2019. The parliamentarians were sworn and inaugurated, all 575 parliamentarians. And we are still watching for the preparation of the opening of the session, and we are now waiting for the president and vice president to enter the meeting hall. So we are now watching the arrival of our parliamentarians who are attending in person today's session. We are waiting for the commencement of the session of MPR and joint session of DPR and DPD. As the host of this year's joint session, DPR has prepared different scenarios to ensure the smooth implementation of this session despite the COVID-19 pandemic. So there are technical preparation for journalists and security protocols that are in place today. Health protocols are certainly observed throughout the session. For example, as we can see, by limiting the number of attendees. While the capacity of the assembly hall is up to 1,000 participants this year, and with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic, we can only have 310 participants. The remaining members of MPR, DPD, and DPR are attending the session virtually. Of the 310 guests who are here in person, we also have 170 members of DPR, the speaker, heads of factions, as well as members of the complementary organs of the House, and including 80 committee. We are now watching on screens a member of parliamentarians who are here in person waiting for the opening of the session this year. Our agenda today will include speech to deliver us to the session, and the President of Joko Widodo as the head of state and head of government will also deliver report of the performance of the state institutions. to allow for the people to also understand and monitor the performance and to evaluate the performance of state institutions. We are still here waiting for the arrival of the leaders of the legislative bodies. And the president and vice president are now in the VIP waiting room, and momentarily they will be heading to the third floor to commence the session, the annual session of MPR in 2020.
Again, we would like to ask all of you to take your seats. And during the event, we would like to remind you to keep your cell phone and other communication device in silent or vibrating mode. We would like to ask for your cooperation for all of you who attend in person in this plenary hall to remain on your seat or in front of your seat after the event and refrain from shaking the hands or taking selfie with the President and Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia in order to observe the COVID-19 health protocol. On your screen, we have Agus Harimurti Yudhoyono and Minister Mahfud MD. And aside from the annual session of the MPR and joint session of DPR and DPD, we will also have the speech of the President on the performance of the state institutions. As you can see, the member of parliaments who are already attending in person are waiting for the session to be open, waiting for the leadership of the assembly and both houses together with president to enter the room.
Ladies and gentlemen, on your screen we have Mr. Erlangga Hartarto, the Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs, and we also have Agus Yudhoyono, and the Minister Mahfud MD. And while they are grouped together, but we can see that they still maintain safe physical distance of around 1 meters. We are still waiting for the commencement of the annual session and joint session of DPR and DPD that will be officially opened after the President, Vice President, and leadership of high state institutions arrival at the Assembly Hall. Other than the Secretary General of DPR RI, maintaining all safety protocols are in place. We also have support from the Indonesian police and the military to provide security for today's session. We are still waiting for the session to be opened, and we are still waiting also for further information from the Secretary General of DPR RI. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's annual session and joint session is unlike other sessions held last year. This year we are battered by the COVID-19 pandemic since March 2020. And ladies and gentlemen, on screen we can see Minister Prabowo Subianto, the Minister of Defense of the Republic of Indonesia, has arrived. He is greeting and joining other officials. And it seems that shortly we are going to follow the opening of the annual session of MPR and the joint session of DPR and DPD of 2020. So again, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have an unusual circumstance of this today's session. As we know, the pandemic began in March 2020, and as we know that the transmission rate of the disease has not been under control. However, we believe and we are optimistic that together we can overcome the pandemic. And later we will hear from the president himself about the measures that will be taken in this year. So waiting for the arrival of the president, vice president, and the leadership of other state institutions, and we will follow the president's address in commemoration of 75th independence of Indonesia. We'll also follow the speech of the Speaker of DPR to open the session year of 2020-2021. Also a speech on the bill of the state and expenditure budget APBN. Parliamentarians are now in recess and they're taking that period to meet their constituents and to engage their constituents. Will be followed by a new session period where the parliamentarians will then take those information they learn from the constituents into action plans. Today's agenda will start shortly, and the theme carried today is Advanced Indonesia. We have also a ceremony on August 13th at the palace. And today's we will be following the annual session of MPR and joint session of DPR and DPD, and that state address commemorating the 75th Independence Day of Indonesia, and the President's address on the bill of APBN 2021. On Sunday, we will have a ceremony and moment of silence in Kalibata area, and we also have Independence Day ceremony on August 17, 2020.
As we can see on the screen, the President and the Vice President, together with the Chair of the People Consultative Assembly, speakers of the House of Representatives and House of the Regional Representatives, have arrived on the third level of Nusantara Room to enter the plenary hall. As you can see, Vice President K. Haji Maruf Amin and also the President Joko Widodo are greeting the media journalist and directly enter the plenary hall. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. The President of the Republic of Indonesia and the Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia, together with the Chairperson of the People Consultative Assembly, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the Speaker of the House of the Regional Representatives are entering the plenary hall. The national anthem Indonesia Raya. A moment of silence led by the chair of the People Consultative Assembly. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let us bow our head and pray to God the Almighty so that all of the heroes of the nation who have passed before us are received on his sides. And may all of us be given the strength to continue their fight. A moment of silence begin. And ladies and gentlemen, please return to your seat. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be with you, and may God give you His mercy and His blessings. Good morning and greetings for all of us. Om Swastiastu, Nama Budaya, greetings of virtue. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Indonesia, Insinyur Haji Joko Widodo. Your Excellency Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia, Professor Dr. K. Haji Ma'ruf Amin. Your Excellency, the Fifth President of the Republic of Indonesia, Madam Dr. Honoris Causa Megawati Soekarno Putri, who attend this session virtually. Your Excellency, the Sixth Vice President of the Republic, the Sixth President of the Republic of Indonesia, the Bapak Haji Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, who also attend virtually, the Sixth Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia, General Retired Trisno, the Ninth President of the Republic of Indonesia, Dr. Haji Hamzahas, MA PhD, the 11th Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia, Professor Dr. Budiono. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Dr. Honoris Causa Puan Maharani, the Speaker of the House of the Regional Representatives, Mr. Lanyala Mahmud Mataliti, the Chair of the Supreme Audit Agency, Dr. Agung Firman Sampurna, Constitutional Justice, or the Supreme Court, the Chair of Supreme Court, Dr. Muhammad Syarifuddin, the Constitutional Justice, Dr. Anwar Usman, the Chair of the Judicial Committee, Dr. Haji Jaja Ahmad Jayus, the Deputy Chairpersons of the People Consultative Assembly, Dr. Ahmad Basara MH, from the Indonesian Democratic Party of Struggle, Haji Ahmad Muzani, from the Great Indonesia Movement Party, Lestari Murdijat, from the National Democratic Party, Dr. Haji Jazilul Fawait SQMA, from the National Awakening Party, Dr. Haji Syarifuddin Hasan, from the Democrat Party, Dr. HM Hidayat Nur Wahid MA, from the Prosperous Justice Party, Dr. Honoris Causa Zulkifli Hasan, SEMM, from the National Mandate Party, Haji Arsul Sani, SHMSI, from the United Development Party, and Professor Dr. Insinyur Fadil Muhammad from the House of the Regional Representatives. All of the chair of the state institutions, honorable members of the House, the coordinating minister of the Advanced Indonesia Cabinet, all of the military chiefs and police chiefs, the chair of political parties, media journalists, all of the invitees, and most especially, all of the Indonesian people. Based on the attendance list submitted by the Secretariat General, up until now, we have in person 161 members and 274 members attending virtually. From all of the invited members today, virtually and in person, and they have signed the attendance list, and the remaining members of MPR, DPD, and DPD are attending virtually. Thus, based on the stipulation in Article 66, Paragraph 5 of the Standing Order of MPR, Article 281, Paragraph 1, and Article 254, Paragraph 5 of the DPR Standing Order, and Article 264, Paragraph 5 of the DPR Standing Order, the session has met the requirements to be started. By reciting Bismillahirrahmanirrahim in the name of God, the most merciful and most compassionate, the plenary session on the occasion of the annual session of MPR and joint session of the DPR and DPD, with the agenda to listen to the speech of President who will report on the performance of the state institutions and the commemoration of the 75th anniversary of Indonesia independence is declared to be open and open for public. Distinguished members, ladies and gentlemen, as people of faith, let us always extend our gratitude and praise to God the Almighty for all the blessings and grace we are still given the strength and health to carry out our respective constitutional duties and serve our community, our nation, and our state. We should also be profoundly thankful that amid the difficult situation, while we are facing the national disaster of COVID-19 pandemic with its broad impact in every aspect of community, nation, and state, we can still observe a very important agenda, which is the annual session of MPR and joint session between DPR and DPD with all of its simplicity and limitation. Even so, we believe that all the limitation in the organization of the annual session of MPR and joint session of DPR and DPD will not reduce our spirit of statesmanship to continue to work together in gotong royong, building togetherness and unity upon the foundation of the national noble values of the nation, Pancasila as the basis and ideology of the nation, 1945 Constitution as our constitution, the unitary state as the form of our nation and government, and Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity in diversity, as the motto of the state. Therefore, please allow us from the desk of the session chair to express our togetherness in a rhyme. We are facing some difficulty in streaming session, and please bear with us. Please be patient while we are waiting for the streaming to continue. a not so young age for a big nation. We should extend our highest appreciation to the founding father of the nation, our independence declarator, Bung Karno and Bung Hatta, who have delivered Indonesia to independence so we can be a united and sovereign nation equal with other nations in the world. From the desk of the chair of this assembly, we, as the chair and the deputy in the leadership of the members of MPR, DPD, and DPD, would like to wish us happy 75th Independence Anniversary of Indonesia, Dirgahayu. May we all be given the strength to materialize the perpetual vision of Indonesia that is independent, united, just, and prosper. May we all also have the strength to protect all people and territory of Indonesia, promoting public welfare, educating the nation, and participate in implementing a global order that is based on independence, perpetual justice, and social justice. August session, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. As we understand, the annual session of MPR, which has been held since 2014-2019 term, has given a different nuance in our democratic life. This session has a high position in our constitutional convention. Therefore, this annual session of MPR has a very important meaning as a forum to practice the sovereignty of the people, to build communication, and also a media to actually strengthen the confidence of the people through the reporting of the performance on the implementation of authority and constitutional duties of each state institution. It is also a forum to grow democracy and to ensure the constitutional rights of the people so that people can get information on the implementation of the state institutions' duties. This is also a moment to evaluate and reflect on the implementation of 1945 Constitution to implement the principle of checks and balances to bring about a control mechanism and balance in our constitutional system. Therefore, the Constitutional Convention, which is governed in Article 151 Para 2 MPR Regulation Number 1 of 2019 on the Standing Order of MPR, is not only a mere ceremonial agenda, but a very important constitutional agenda that fulfills democratic elements as mandated by Article 1 Para 2 Constitution 1945 that the sovereignty is fully on the hand of the people and should be carried out based on our Constitution. August session, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the People Consultative Assembly is a state institution, a democratic institution, and a consultative institution that carry out the mandate of the people based on our national constitution. Our authority is very noble. It is related to the basic law, the constitution of the nation, which is to amend and to pass our constitution as the highest law in the country that govern different strategic dimension in our community, in our nation, and in our country. Aside from amending and passing the Constitution, we also have another important authority, which is to maintain and to give legitimation to the transition of the government by inaugurating the president and the vice president as a head of state and a head of government. Thank be to God, the plenary session of MPR to inaugurate the president and the vice president as governed in Article 3, Para 2 of Constitution 1945 went in a very secure, and peaceful way. The success of this plenary session is also due to the support of all elements of the nation that continue to commit to maintain the unity of the nation, even though the democratic process was a very dynamic one, but the pinnacle of the democratic celebration received highest appreciation from representatives of friendly nations. Some head of states, head of government, and special envoys attended the inauguration in person on 20th of October 2019. Therefore, all of us are optimistic that no matter what challenges, the democracy in Indonesia will be beautiful at the end of the day. Just like how the togetherness of the beauty of the togetherness of our togetherness today, we have a joint session today. There is no sadness. Everyone looks happy, working in togetherness to serve the nation sincerely. This is actually a sign that all of us are equal. There is no more differences. We all return to our perpetual vision, which is to advance our Indonesia towards a just, prosperous, welfare, and independent Indonesia.
Ladies and gentlemen, in this assembly, allow us to report the progress of the performance of our duties as mandated by Article 5, Law Number 17 of 2014 concerning the MPR, DPR, DPD, and DPRD as last amended by Law Number 13 of 2019. And those duties are to promote Pancasila, the 1945 Constitution of the Republic of Indonesia, the Unitary State of Republic of Indonesia, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, the Unity and Diversity, as well as the People's Consultative Assembly's decisions reviewing the system of state administration and the Constitution and its implementation. We are also tasked to learn about the people's aspiration, including in the regions, about the implementation of the Constitution. Our first task on the promotion of the 4 pillars of MPR, we have established a promotion committee consisting of 45 members, representatives of factions and groups in the DPD. Aside from that duty, the People's Consultative Assembly, or MPR, through this body has also taken strategic and concrete steps in evaluating the materials and methods that we employ to promote the 4 pillars of MPR, and we tailored those methods with our audience, especially the millennial generation. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the promotion activities and its methods have also been done aligned with the performance targets of the MPR. Aside from that, we also actualize the values of the 4 pillars of MPR to address the issues in the public. We have a program called MPR Peduli, or MPR Against COVID-19, as well as other programs designed to help the people or help the society in overcoming the pandemic. Furthermore, the duty of the MPR to review the state administration system and the Constitution and its implementation, we have established a review committee of MPR consisting of 45 members, representatives of factions and groups in our DPD. This review body focused on following up recommendations of MPR from office term 2014 and 2019, as well as carrying out reviews on strategic and actual issues in developing in our people, informed by our activities of learning the aspirations of people and our constituents. The actual and strategic issues that we are currently discussing in the review and commission of state administration review, encompassing Pancasila as an ideology, villages and rural government, elections, national security resiliency, as well as the effectiveness of the efforts in response of COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the omnibus law on job creation. The result of our reviews will be produced as an MPR recommendation to be submitted to other state institutions for their consideration and followed up according to their authorities. To support this duty, we also have a commission on review of state administration consisting of 45 members of experts and practitioners with according expertise in this area. With respect to our duty of learning of the people's aspiration and regional aspiration, MPR and its supporting bodies have carried out activities engaging the people and our constituents. This activity is also conducted in follow-up of the recommendations of MPR Office Term 2014-2019 regarding the importance of the principles of the state as well as the improvement of the Indonesia's administration system. To collect people's aspiration, that activity was carried out through state institutions as various strategic group in society, political parties, as well as religious and social organizations through various events as well as meetings, and God willing that we are providing them the right channel that will enable them to voice their aspirations about the implementation of the Constitution to MPR. MPR also has another committee. We have a budgeting committee tasked to provide policy on program planning, activity, and budget of the MPR. This budget committee is the committee that develops the strategy of program planning. We apologize for this technical issue. Please bear with us while we're resolving the issue. The leadership of the MPR is also actively building bilateral relations with friendly countries. During our visit to Saudi Arabia and Morocco, the leadership of MPR has offered the idea to establish a global consultative council, and that is to address the importance of strengthening cooperation, international cooperation of countries with Muslim populations in countering radicalism and extremism, as well as to protect world peace. This idea was welcomed by the Saudi Arabia government and the Morocco government, who pledged to actively contribute to realize that idea. And they are also committed to encourage other countries in the Arabian and European, as well as other countries in Africa, to join this effort. We apologize for this technical issue. Please bear with us in a moment. The rights of women and the rights of employees. We also have issues such as nuclear crisis as an environmental crisis that threatens humanity. These issues need to be comprehensively addressed together, and it requires participation of everyone, as well as participation between countries, cross-sector, and between different institutions in government and non-government institutions. And all elements must take their responsibility, must take actions that, while at the same time upholding togetherness, unity, solidarity, just, and human rights. So to have an international forum to address these issues faced by the people, it will be very advantageous. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we know that the COVID-19 pandemic has led to a new world order, a new normal that affects all aspects of life as us as a state and nation. As a nation, we are required to adapt to this new normal, this new situation to maintain our existence so that we can adapt with new situation without losing our identity as Indonesians. And therefore, MPR as the safeguard of Pancasila must make Pancasila as the basis of ethics and moral of Indonesia in addressing various issues coming from Indonesia and from outside of Indonesia. In line with that, our decision number 6/MPR/2001 concerning the ethics of a nation and state life must be promoted to be the moral and ethical foundation in building political ethics, social and cultural ethics, economic and business ethics, government ethics, environmental ethics, and science ethics. And shortly, MPR is going to organize a convention on ethics on nation life together with the Judicial Commission as well as the Honorary Council of the election body to revitalize the importance and promote the importance of MPR's decision number 6. The COVID-19 pandemic and its implications and effects, not only the public health but also education and economy. As we know, from March to mid-August 2020, this has been the toughest period for Indonesia's economy. The Statistics Agency released our economic growth in the second quarter of 2020, and we contracted by minus 5.32% compared to the second quarter of 2019.
But this economic slowdown is not only happening in Indonesia. The global economy is also sharply declining because of the consequences of the economic activity stopped due to COVID-19 pandemic. The World Bank have already declared that recession will take place in all areas in the world. This is the worst recession in the history after the Second World War. Before, the International Monetary Fund also launched the same projection. Even in an outlook published in April 2020, IMF mentioned that this recession may be even worse than the Great Depression in 1930s. The OECD also shared the same projection. In its most recent report, OECD argued that the COVID-19 pandemic has brought the world to the worst recession except for the 100 years of war. The economic impact of coronavirus will be very bad. The recovery will be slow, and the crisis will have a long-lasting impact which unproportionally affect the most vulnerable group of people. And if we don't address this soon, the domino effect of the recession spread to other sectors, from non-performing loan to inflation that cannot be controlled, or on the contrary, sharp deflation because the economy is actually put on hold, and our trade balance will suffer minuses, and nationally we will have increase of unemployment, reduce of income, increase of poverty, and also declining in assets price, including in price of shares and property, the increase of disparity, the high government debt, and also decrease in tax revenue and loss of production and permanently bankruptcy of businesses. We are again need to work together, to work with the government to boost the real sector by, for instance, providing credit for small and medium enterprises and big enterprises, help the government to prevent the recession. Especially, maybe we can do restructurization for credit, especially for businesses and industry that employ many people. We apologize. We are facing difficulty, but at the same time, we should pay attention to the health protocol. Therefore, we need to encourage the government to prevent the domino effect of COVID-19. We are facing difficulty. We don't get any input. Please bear with us while we are trying to fix this problem. Before we listen to the performance report and also the state address, I will hand over the chair of this meeting to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Madam Speaker Puan Maharani, who will continue to chair the session, and by reciting Syukur Alhamdulillah, thank be to God Almighty, allow me to end this annual session. Since the pandemic is still among us, let love flourish, as splendid as this string of words. Together we stand against the pandemic and act as one to reach our goals. Stars in the cloud, at night. Pandemic is a test. Let's stand together and strengthen our unity. Merdeka. Wash your hand cleanly. This is the end. Thank you and greetings. And now I would like to hand over the chairing of this session to the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Thank you to the chairperson of the People Consultative Assembly. I have received the gavel and I would like to continue the session. As we might have known, as we know, following the amendments of the 1945 Constitution of the Republic of Indonesia, the governance system, position, and authority of the state institutions have changed. Therefore, it is important for us to maintain interagencies cooperation because the authority of state institutions, some can be fulfilled independently, while some should be fulfilled in concerted with other agencies. The state institutions also represent a balance of power. And now, allow me to deliver the address of the Speaker of the House of Representatives in this joint assembly, the joint session of the People Consultative of the House of Representatives and House of Regional Representatives. Your Excellency President of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Joko Widodo, Your Excellency Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia, K. Haji Ma'ruf Amin, Your Excellency the Fifth President of the Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Megawati Soekarno Putri, Your Excellency the Sixth President of the Republic of Indonesia, Bapak Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, Your Excellency the Sixth President of the Republic of Indonesia, Bapak Tri Sutrisno, Your Excellency the Ninth Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia, Bapak Hamzahas, Your Excellency the 10th and 12th Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia, Bapak Muhammad Yusuf Kalla, Your Excellency the 11th Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia, Bapak Budiono, Your Excellency Chair and Deputy Chairs of the People Consultative Assembly, Your Excellency Vice Speakers of the House of Representatives, distinguished Chair and Vice Chairs of the House of the Regional Representatives, distinguished Chair and Deputy Chair of such institutions, distinguished Ministers, Your Excellency Ambassadors and representatives of friendly countries, distinguished chair of political parties, distinguished ladies and gentlemen who attend in person and virtually, and esteemed people of Indonesia. Thank and gratitude be to Allah, the most glorious and the most exalted, the one and only God, because it is only with His compassions and blessings and favor that we are able to convene in this joint session this morning to fulfill one of our constitutional duties. This joint session is different from the previous years. This is due to the current pandemic situation. The implementation of the annual session of MPR and the joint session of DPR and DPD is combined into one session. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency President and Vice President, and esteemed Indonesian people. Presently, we are all exerting various measures to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has caused widespread impacts to all aspects of life of our people. This pandemic brings about significant threats to the safety of our people, to our economy and our households, as well as to the welfare of our people. Up to 13th of August 2020, we record 132,816 cases of COVID-19 in 34 provinces and 480 districts and municipalities across Indonesia. As many as 87,588 people have recovered, while 5,765 people lost their lives. In terms of the national economy, the growth drivers of national economy contracted. In the second quarter of the year, economic growth contracted to minus 5.32% year on year. All sectors, including small business of the people, have been disrupted, and this has led to falling income, growing unemployment rate, increasing poverty rate, and the overall decline of the people's welfare. Faced by an unprecedented non-natural disaster of this proportion, the state needs to be present to protect its people from the threat of a health crisis, the threat of an economic crisis, and the threat of a welfare crisis by taking extraordinary measures to various policies and programs to mitigate COVID-19 and its impacts. To improve response capability of our health sector, expand social protection, impose large social distancing, and accelerate economic recovery measures. Through Law Number 2 of 2020 on the policy of state finances and financial system stability for COVID-19 pandemic, and in response to harmful threats to the national economy and the stability of financial system, the government have been given the authority to carry out fiscal policies, the state monetary policies, and also to stabilize our national finances to address COVID-19 pandemic and its impact. The safety of the people is the highest principle that should be upheld in running the government. This principle has become even more relevant in the face of COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, it is imperative that the efforts and policies taken by the state to protect its people are supported by everyone. Meanwhile, the people demands for the government to perform its best to be responsive, agile, and united in implementing the various programs it has designed that aim to protect the people, to help the people, and to reinvigorate the social and economic life of Indonesia. The new normal and new behavior needed to adapt with COVID-19 and the national economic recovery are the aspiration of the people of Indonesia. The government is expected to act effectively through policies, cross-sectoral coordination, fiscal and monetary instruments, and by consolidating existing potentials and resources to recover Indonesia's social and economic activities immediately. We should appreciate the partnership and collaboration in gotong royong of all elements of this nation, as demonstrated by the central government, the subnational government, doctors, health workers, COVID-19 task force, the Indonesian Armed Forces, Indonesian police, state-owned enterprises, private companies, volunteers, and all community members in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. This spirit of gotong royong, the collaboration, has empowered us in facing the adversity that is COVID-19 up until now. Your Excellency, President and Vice President, distinguished members of both houses. In just 3 days, on August 17, 2020, we will celebrate the 75th Independence Day of the Republic of Indonesia. Aside from being the day when we honor the service of our heroes who have sacrificed themselves, body and soul for our independence so that we could be free from colonialism, it is also a momentum for us to reflect back on the long journey that Indonesia has embarked as a nation, a journey filled with turns and changes that usher us in a new motion, a journey where the tides ebb and flow and lead us to the Indonesia that we know today. The Indonesian Independence Declarator, Bung Karno, a moment after delivering the proclamation of independence on 17th of August 1945, said, "Today we are free. We are tied to nothing and no one. From this day onward, we are in charge of our country, a country that is independent, the Republic of Indonesia that is free perpetually, God willing. God bless our freedom." The core of a free Indonesia, an independent of Indonesia, lies in the power that we have in our hands to determine the fate of our nation and homeland, to realize an independent, united, fair, and prosperous Indonesia. Indonesia has gone through a long journey to shape the power to determine the fate of its nation and homeland. In the 75 years of that process, Indonesia has experienced various stages of development in many aspects, from governance system, democratic system, government system, development pattern and approaches, government administration, and institutional relations. Building Indonesia has an extensive meaning and it refers to all kinds of development, all kinds of sectors that take place in the nation and society in pursuit of the goals and ideals offered by our independence as stated in the preamble of the 1945 Constitution. The objectives of development carried out by the government of the Republic of Indonesia are explicitly stated in paragraph 4 of the 1945 Constitution preamble, which reads, "To protect all the people and the territory of Indonesia, to promote public welfare, to educate the nation, and to participate in a global order that is based on freedom, perpetual peace, and social justice." To realize the goal, we need a development politics to manage, govern, and control the resources of this nation and country, and to direct their use to build our nation's strength. The direction of development politics is critical in a development process. Without a clear political aim, a development process is a vessel without a compass. Without a strong leadership that has clear vision and mission, a development process is a vessel without its captain that sails toward destruction because it fails to avoid a rock in the sea or capsize and drowned by the storm. Advanced Indonesia is the theme of the 75th Indonesia Independence Day celebration of the Republic of Indonesia. And it reflects the resolute that we all share to steer the national development politics so that advanced Indonesia can be realized in all aspects of our nation's life. The COVID-19 pandemic is a task to the progress that Indonesia has achieved in various areas. It shows us areas of improvement that we need to work on and pursue to realize advanced Indonesia. We need to improve the availability and quality of our health services and make healthcare equitable for every single Indonesian across the archipelago. We need to strengthen our disaster management system and to ensure that the system is integrated and well coordinated. We need to refine our social security and social protection system. We need to strengthen our legislation to prevent an economic crisis. We also need regulations that can align fiscal authorities and monetary policy authorities to face an economic crisis.
Apologies, we are experiencing technical difficulty. Please bear with us while we are solving this issue. Politics, social, and culture, so that we can determine the fate of our nation and homeland with the power that comes from our sovereignty. In the 75 years of Indonesia's independence, we have attained much progress. Our progress has always followed the progress of civilization, which continually evolves and presents new challenges. Therefore, to realize advanced Indonesia, we also need to be agile to keep abreast with the rapid development of the world in many areas. To accelerate advanced Indonesia with its political, social, cultural, and economic strengths, our development politics going forward needs to focus on accelerating Indonesia's human development, the strengthening of our national food industry, the robust management of our national industry, the equitable implementation of infrastructure development, and the optimization of bureaucracy reform. Indonesia also upholds the rule of law. Therefore, the spirit of advanced Indonesia needs to be adopted as a common goal in our legal development to fulfill our nation's needs of strong legal instruments and framework. Our legislations need to support our goal as a nation and bring us towards becoming an advanced Indonesia. Our needs of legal frameworks will change as the world evolves, but our legislations must always be founded upon Pancasila as our core philosophy, the 1945 Constitution as the juridic- judicial basis, and the unitary state of the Republic of Indonesia, and Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, the unity in diversity, as our consensus, and social justice as our foundation. It is high time that legislations and regulations that we inherited from the colonial era are substituted by legislations formulated by the Indonesia that is independent, that accommodates our cultural, social, and sociological values of Indonesia. Advanced Indonesia also encompasses regional development. To sustain regional development and advancement, in December this year, we are going to organize a democratic celebration, organizing regional elections of leaders of districts and municipalities concurrently in several regions. This democratic celebration is part of Indonesia's political process towards a more democratic, transparent, accountable, and responsible political life. We hope that our citizens in the regions where the elections are held to demonstrate active participation to elect the best leaders who are able to bring advancement to their regions. We also put our hope to our political parties, which are the pillar of democracy and are vital for our political and democracy systems. We expect them to actively set an example of exercising democratic politics founded upon Pancasila. To realize advanced Indonesia, our development politics also need to open room and access of participation for the people of Indonesia. Every citizen holds the same responsibility to contribute to national interests. Sukarno said, "My battle of driving out the colonizers is easy. Your battle is onerous because you will be dealing with your countrymen and women. This message suggests how vital our nation's unity is in building Indonesia. We need every individual to contribute to build Indonesia, and we need gotong royong from every citizen. Our unity needs to be inspired by our love for the homeland and for Indonesia as a nation bound by Pancasila and unity in diversity. The cooperation, gotong royong, our collaboration of the People's Consultative Assembly, House of Representatives, Regional Representative Council, and the government, each element has its tasks, each element has its duty, and one responsibility for the common goal of Indonesia. All for Indonesia and Indonesia for all. Building upon the spirit of our Declaration of Independence on August 17, 1945, let us unite to shape our strength as nation and state so that we can determine the fate of our nation and homeland by our own hands. We are strong because we are united. We are united because we are strong. This is our resolve to unite for Indonesia. Mr. President, Vice President, distinguished guests, and esteemed people of Indonesia. Now we will give the time to the President to deliver his state address in commemoration of the 75th Independence Day of the Republic of Indonesia before this joint assembly of the House of Representatives and the Regional Representative Council today. Mr. President, the time and floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. May peace be upon us all. Om Swastiastu. Namo Buddhaya. Greetings of virtue. Distinguished Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia, Bapak Profesor K. Haji Ma'ruf Amin, and Ibu Wuri Astu Ma'ruf Amin, Honorable Speaker, Vice Speakers, and members of the People's Consultative Assembly of the Republic of Indonesia, Honorable Speaker, Vice Speakers, and members of the House of Representatives of the Republic of Indonesia, Honorable Speaker, Vice Speakers, and members of the Regional Representatives Council of the Republic of Indonesia, Honorable Chairperson, Vice Chairpersons, and members of state institutions, distinguished Ibu Haja Megawati Soekarno Putri, the 5th President of the Republic of Indonesia, distinguished Bapak Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, the 6th President of the Republic of Indonesia, who watches the speech online, distinguished Bapak Trisno and Bapak Hamzah Hast, distinguished Bapak Muhammad Yusuf Kalla and Ibu Mufidah Yusuf Kalla, distinguished Bapak Budiono and Ibu Herawati Budiono, distinguished Ibu Hajah Sinta Nuriyah Abdurrahman Wahid, Excellencies, ambassadors of friendly countries, and heads of international agencies and organizations, distinguished ministers of the Working Cabinet and commanders of the Indonesian National Defense Forces, distinguished chairpersons of political parties, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my fellow countrymen. All these chairs in this assembly room should have been fully occupied with no chair left unused. The past 2 weeks should have been filled with various competitions and crowds full of joy and carnivals to celebrate and enliven the 75th Independence Day of the Republic of Indonesia. Nonetheless, every single thing that we have planned has to be completely changed. All this must not diminish our gratitude in commemorating the 75th Independence Day of Indonesia. My fellow countrymen, as many as 215 countries, with no exceptions, are currently facing these hard times due to the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the WHO, as of 13th of August, there have been more than 20 million cases worldwide, with the total number of deaths reaching 737,000 lives. All countries, be it underdeveloped countries, developing countries, or developed countries, have been experiencing setbacks due to COVID-19. The ongoing economic crisis is also the worst in history. In the first quarter of 2020, our economy grew by 2.97%, but in the second quarter, the growth contracted by 5.32%. Economies of developed countries even reported a negative growth, even reaching more than -10 to -17%. The setbacks experienced by several developed countries can serve as an opportunity and a momentum for us to catch up. The current economic situation is analogous to a computer crash in which countries are currently facing stagnation. All countries must undergo a brief process of shutdown, restart, and reboot. And all countries have the opportunity to reset all the systems. I warmly welcome the moral appeals full of wisdom from the ulamas, religious leaders, and culture bearers to make the momentums of the pandemic as a new awakening. Like once again, a new awakening to make a big leap. This is the time for us to fundamentally renew ourselves, to make a major transformation, to implement grand strategies in the fields of economy, law, governance, social, culture, including health and education. It is time for us to turn this crisis into an opportunity to make big leaps. At the age of 75, we we have emerged as an upper middle income country. And 25 years from now, at the centenary of the Republic of Indonesia, we must achieve great progress and make Indonesia a developed country. My fellow countrymen, we must undertake fundamental reforms in the way we work. Our readiness and speed are being tested. We had to evacuate Indonesian citizens from the pandemic zone in Tiongkok, in China. We had to provide hospitals, isolation rooms, medicines, medical equipment, and uphold discipline in following health protocols. Everything must be done quickly, in a very short time. When the health crisis brings an impact on our economy, we also have to take swift actions, providing social assistance for the people in the forms of stable food assistance, cash assistance, electricity fee discount and subsidy, village cash assistance, and salary subsidy. We helped our MSMEs obtain loans restructuring, receive productive presidential social assistance in the forms of emergency capital assistance. We also helped them by purchasing their products. We provided assistance for laid-off workers, among others, through social assistance and pre-employment programs. It was no easy task. It was no easy task. To that end, the government must quickly change programs, formulations of program. We must adjust working programs to the current situations. We must carry out budget reallocation in a very short time. We have issued government regulations in lieu of Law Number 1 of 2020 that has been approved by the House of Representatives to become Law Number 2 of 2020. Thank you to members of the House of Representatives for the fast work. We have also been in synergy with Central Bank, Bank Indonesia, the Financial Service Authority, and the Deposit Insurance Agency to rebuild the economy. The crisis has forced us to change our way of work from standard ways to outstanding ways, from ordinary ways to extraordinary ways, from a long and complicated procedure to a smart shortcut, from being procedure-oriented to being result-oriented. We must change our mindset and work ethic. Flexibility, speed, and accuracy are imperative. Efficiency, collaborations, and the use of technology must be prioritized. We must improve our national self-discipline and national productivity. We must take lessons from this crisis. We must not let the crisis bring about setbacks. In fact, we must capitalize on the crisis as a momentum to make a big leap. My fellow countrymen, we have taken extraordinary measures in the struggle to curb the spread of COVID-19, in treating patients and in preventing death. On behalf of the people, the nation, and the state, I would like to express my gratitude and highest appreciation to doctors, nurses, and health workers, and all health workers at hospitals, laboratories, health clinics, and isolation rooms, as well as to community leaders, volunteers, journalists, personnel of the Indonesian National Defense Forces and the Indonesian National Police, and civil servants at the central government and and regional governments amid the pandemic. Fundamental reforms in the health sector also must be accelerated. Disease prevention and a healthy lifestyle must be our top priority. We must also continue strengthening the capacity of our human resources, developing hospitals and health centers, as well as medicine and medical equipment industry. Resilience and capacity of our health service must be improved on a massive scale. Regarding food security, we must ensure smooth food supply chain from the upstreams of production to downstreams of distributions to all regions across the country. Food production efficiency, increasing added value for farmers, strengthening of cooperatives and farmer corporations will continue to be improved. We are building food estates to strengthen national food reserves, not only in the upstream sector, but also in the downstream sector of food product industry. We will no longer adopt manual ways, but we'll adopt modern technology and the use of digital sophistications, not only for domestic market, but also for international market. We have started to develop food estates in Central Kalimantan and North Sumatra provinces. And we will continue to develop it in some other regions. It is a synergy between the government, private sector, and the community as landowners and as workers. My fellow countrymen, we have been making considerable efforts to establish energy autonomy. In 2019, we managed to produce and use B20 fuel, and this year we will start with B30. So we have been able to reduce the value of all imports in 2019. State-owned oil company PT Pertamina is currently cooperating with researchers who have created the catalyst for green diesel D100, 100% diesel fuel produced from palm oil. Production trial has been accomplished at our two refiners. This will absorb a minimum of 1 million tons of farmer-produced palm for 20,000 barrels of production capacity per day. The massive downstreaming of raw materials is continuously undertaken. Coal is processed into methanol and gas. Several refineries are being constructed to process crude oil and into refined oil, and at the same time they become petrochemical industries drive that supply high values of products from downstream industry. Nickel ore is processed into ferronickel, stainless steel slab, and steel sheet, and is developed as the main material for lithium batteries. This will narrow down our current account deficits, increase our employment opportunities, and start tackling fossil energy dominations. This will place Indonesia in an even more strategic position in the development of lithium battery, world's electric vehicle, and future technology producer. We must adopt the same principle in building other industrial estates, including super economic corridor development in the northern coast of Java. Batang Industrial Estate, as well as the one in Subang Majalengka, is still being developed in this brief time, designed to attract quality investment that is in synergy with our MSMEs, providing additional significant values for the national economy and creating employment in a big number. Similar industrial estate will also be built in various regions all over Indonesia. That is always in synergy with community entrepreneurships and MSMEs to provide employment opportunities for unemployed young generation and boost equitability of development in all corners of the country. Consequently, a favorable national ecosystem for the expansions of quality employment opportunity must be established. Regulatory reforms must be carried out. Regulations that are overlapping, complicated, and misleading those that are at risk must be put to an end. We dedicate all of these to fair national economy, to the interests of workers and job seekers, in order to alleviate poverty by providing quality employment opportunity as wide as possible. We want all of them to be employed. We want all of them to prosper. My fellow countrymen, productive and innovative national ecosystem cannot grow without favorable legal, political, cultural, and educational ecosystems. High flexibility and simple bureaucracy cannot be exchanged with legal certainty, anti-corruptions, and democracy. All policies must be prioritized to become environmentally friendly and promote protections of human rights. Speed and accuracy cannot be exchanged with carelessness and arbitrariness. The government always makes efforts of corruption eradication in a serious manner. Prevention efforts must be intensified through simple, transparent, and efficient governance, and law must be enforced without discriminations. Upholding democratic values cannot be compromised. Democracy must continue to be practiced without disrupting speed at works and legal certainty, as well as the noble values of our nation. The 2020 regional election must be conducted with discipline by following health protocols. The noble values of Pancasila, the unitary state of the Republic of Indonesia, national unity cannot be exchanged with anything. We will not provide any room for anyone to pose a threat to them. National education system must prioritize religious values as well as develop strong and noble human characters and to excel in innovations and technology. I want all technology platforms to boost the transformations to national advancement. The significant role of our digital media plays must be directed to build humanity values and national characters. The media should not be controlled to amass clicks and likes, but must instead be pushed to contribute to humanity and national interests. Ideology and noble values may not be exchanged with economic advancement. In fact, economic advancement clearly requires vigorous national spirit. We must be proud of Indonesian products. We must buy domestic products. We'd like to apologize for technical difficulties. Those
great purposes may only be achieved through cooperation among elements of the nation. We apologize for the technical fault. We are still waiting for the connection. No one should think of themselves as the most Pancasila-minded. All those feeling self-righteous and obtruding are not morally correct. We are fortunate that the majority of Indonesian people from Sabang to Merauke, from Miangas to the island of Rote, uphold solidarity and unity, are tolerant and care for each other, so we can get through these trying times. We are fortunate and thankful for the support and fast work of the chairpersons and members of state institutions who have taken extraordinary measures in supporting crisis handling and turning it into an opportunity to implement the nation's great strategies. The People's Consultative Assembly quickly formulates a new program called the People's Consultative Assembly COVID-19 Care, and also continues to hold dissemination and implementation of Pancasila and the study of our governance system and constitution. With a quick response, the House of Representatives deliberates, approves, and passes government regulation in lieu of Law Number 1 of 2020 to become law to provide legal protection in handling health and economic crisis. And government regulation in lieu of Law Number 2020 to become law as a legal base to postpone regional elections. Other running legislative agenda as follows: deliberation of bill on minerals and coal mining, bill on state finance policy and financial system stability for handling COVID-19 pandemic. The quick response has also been carried out by the Regional Representative Council for emergency issues faced by the regions, starting from people economic empowerment through village enterprises, regional competitiveness improvement, and health protocol application support by drafting 9 bills initiated by the Regional Representative Council and other several agenda in accordance with the respective Regional Representative Council duties. My fellow countrymen, amid various technical difficulties during pandemic, the Audit Board of the Republic of Indonesia is still able to audit and submit 1,180 audit reports of 2019 quickly and thoroughly, provide 36,060 recommendations to the government, and instruct deposit to the state's treasury for 1.39 trillion rupiahs. Those hard internal duties did not affect the audit board's agenda to maintain its role as an external auditor for the international organization and as a member of the Independent Audit Advisory Committee under the United Nations. Likewise, the Supreme Court still guarantees the quick trial service during the pandemic, providing virtual trial service through e-court application and e-litigation that have accelerated trials other than public and face-to-face trials. In a bid to expand access for justice seekers, the Supreme Court continues to improve post-service of legal assistance and modernize its case management through electronic court service. It brings success for the Supreme Court in reducing the number of unsolved cases significantly. The success of the Supreme Court is thanks to the support of the Judicial Commission, which is in accordance with the Commission's authority. The nominations of Supreme Court justice candidates, anti-corruption ad hoc justice candidates, and industrial relations ad hoc justice candidates continue to proceed smoothly. By the same token, the implementation of programs for improving the capacity of justices, court monitoring, investigation, and advocacy for justices also continue to advance. From the period of 2019 to June 2020, the Judicial Commission handled 1,584 public reports, of which 225 sanctions were recommended to impose. The speed and accuracy of the Constitutional Court truly deserve our appreciation. The Constitutional Court continues to improve its governance and the use of electronic services to serve the people in seeking justice. The Constitutional Court has been successful in shortening the time of case settlement for judicial review, from the settlement time of 101 working days per case in 2017 to an average of 59 working days per case. Throughout 2019 to early 2020, the Constitutional Court completed 122 cases of judicial review. In the meantime, the expansions of cooperation at home and abroad continue to be enhanced. The Constitutional Court actively initiates and coordinates various activities at the regional and global levels so that our legal system can be used as reference for democracies around the globe. My fellow countrymen, there are still many big steps that we must take. There are still 25 years left for us to usher in the centenary of the Independence Day of Indonesia, to build Indonesia that we aspire to be. Our current goal is not only to escape the pandemic and to get through the crisis. We are taking measures to make a big leap by making the most of the momentum of the ongoing crisis. The crisis has given us a momentum to catch up, to make a major transformation by implementing grand strategies. Let us resolve fundamental problems. We must make a big leap for a significant progress. We must make the most of this crisis. We must simultaneously and concurrently capitalize on this momentum. We must make Indonesia to be on par with other countries. We must make our country become an advanced Indonesia that we aspire to be. Long live the Republic of Indonesia. Long live the land of Pancasila. Independence. I thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi Santi Om. Namo Buddhaya. Greetings of virtue.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. President, for delivering the state address for the 75th anniversary of Indonesia independence. And today, he is wearing the Sabu traditional costume from East Nusa Tenggara. So thank you for Mr. President, who is always wearing and introducing us to different traditional outfit in every state events. And next, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Nasaruddin Umar, the great Imam of the Istiqlal Mosque, to lead us in prayer.
Greetings of virtue. In the name of God, most merciful, most compassionate. Arabic phrases. The prayer is being recited in Arabic phrases. In any condition, in any situation, we need to be grateful for the freedom, for the independence bestowed upon us. Today, especially, we are thankful that despite the pandemic, you still provides us with the strength and the motivation to convene in the annual session of MPR RI and the joint session of DPR RI and DPD RI. This is the important agenda of Indonesia where we reflect on the meaning of independence that we are going to celebrate in 3 days, the 75th independence of Indonesia. God Almighty, please bestow us with the resilience and strength to adapt and overcome any challenge. Bestow us with the intelligence, the ability to be resigned in our leaders and bestow our leaders the ability to lead this nation. And please avoid fight against us. Please strengthen our unity so that we can leave a legacy of Indonesia, a united Indonesia, to the next generation. God, please grant us your favor to overcome any difficulty, any challenge. We believe that however difficult, if we have you or your presence with us, everything will feel light. From our heart, we sincerely and profoundly ask you to always lend your strength to us. Help us to survive the pandemic and any impacts that it brings. We also pray for the soul of our deceased colleagues, doctors, health workers who passed away because of this disease. Please receive them and please give them the best place beside you, as the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that persons who passed away because of a disease is passed away with blessings. Also for our fallen heroes who sacrificed themselves for the freedom of this nation. And also please forgive our sins, the sins of our parents, of our leaders, and protect us from difficulty, from disasters, and from extraordinary events that may set us back. praise recited in Arabic.
I would like to thank Professor Dr. Nasaruddin Umar, the great Imam of the Istiqlal Mosque, for reciting the prayer. My God the Almighty grant us our prayers. Amen. Your Excellency, President and Vice President, members of both houses, and all esteemed Indonesian people, this is the end of the joint session between DPR and DPD. We would like to thank all of the parties for all of their attention and hard work so that this session can run smoothly. Allow me to end this session by reciting Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Dirgahayu Indonesia, long live Indonesia. Let's the soul and body rest. Merdeka. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Buddhaya. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. The national anthem, Indonesia Raya. The President of the Republic of Indonesia and the Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia, accompanied by the Chair of the People Consultative Assembly, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the Speaker of the House of the Regional Representatives, are leaving the plenary hall. We would like to thank the honorable members of the House and all of the invitees who attend in person, and also to all the audience who followed this session virtually. The address of the Speaker of the House of Representatives to open the session, the first session of 2020-2021, and the address of the President of the Republic of Indonesia to submit the bill on the State Budget 2021, and the budgetary note that accompany it will start at 2 p.m. We would like to ask all the audience to attend in person at 1, and the virtual meeting room will be open at noon without any English interpretation. Thank you and greetings.